Hey guys, Mike here. Before the video gets started, I want to ask you guys to hit the sub button. I don't typically ask for subscriptions like this. Occasionally I do. I try to throw it at the end of a video, but I'm asking you now because I really have a goal of growing this year. I want to hit that 5,000 mark. We want to get to 10,000, go beyond it, and we can't do it unless people subscribe to the channel. So if you like the content that I'm giving you about the Browns and everything that we talk about, please do me a favor, hit that sub button. You won't be disappointed. All right, everyone, this is a story that refuses to die. It continues to go. And I'm now even more intrigued because it's become somewhat of a dumpster fire. And it didn't have to be. It was a harmless thing that, hey, if you misrepresent something, be ready to, have some explaining to do. So let's start off with what we originally heard and then what we know so far. What we originally heard was NFL Network reporter Cynthia Frelund said she had an interaction with Baker Mayfield after the Bills game where she was really excited, and she says, hey, go out there and kick some this season. And then to which he responded, I'm going to them up. To which the other hosts say about the Cleveland, he's going to F up the Cleveland Browns. And it is like, yes, week one opponent, Cleveland Browns. Let's play the clip. So it's not, I'm not making this up. This is what we saw on television-ish. I saw it on the internet, but this was on television.
I got to call timeout here.
It was me. Fine.
I'm using the first timeout. We only have 3. You ran into Baker Mayfield, the former Browns quarterback, recently, and I was hoping you could share an exchange that you had.
It was after the field.
So clearly, she had told this other host, or maybe the other people there as well, about this interaction, and it was so salacious that it was like teed up as a bit on the show. So this was something that they wanted to explore because of the nature of the comment.
On the field after the game against the Bills, this preseason game 3, and I walked up to him like, I'm so excited to see you. Like, go, I was like, kick some butt. I didn't say that word, but, kick some butt, kid. Yeah. No, like, go kick some butt, especially week 1. I cannot wait. And
the especially week 1 part is the interesting, you're already setting yourself up there. Like, you're saying, week 1, go out there and do it because they're playing the Browns. I mean, that's the only explanation.
Uses some expletives, and I was like, I just hope you're like, he's like, I'm going to bleep them up.
Ooh. Like, that's being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent.
Okay, so so she said that he said, I'm going to bleep them up, and then they reaffirm that in meaning them being the first week opponent, the Cleveland Browns, his ex-team.
He's like, I'm going to bleep them up.
Ooh. Like, that's being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent
that's
of the
our week 1
Carolina
opponent.
Panthers.
Depending on.
Okay, so that was the original statement. That's what caught fire on the internet this week. Okay, so that's what's gone down. And the people in Cleveland, there's a lot of people that are sensitive about it, I guess. I don't know. I didn't see anybody who really cared about this particular comment. It wasn't a big deal about it. I mean, McNeil made a funny meme. I mean, it was like, okay, whatever. It's just kind of something that was said. And then, but what made this interesting was the media people going out there saying, hey, that was a private conversation. You shouldn't be, saying these things that he said in confidence. And to me, I mean, I kind of understand that, but professional athletes, they know if you're somebody who is an NFL sideline or network reporter, really anybody there talking to you, there's a chance that can be reported and be created into a story, right? So the players know that. And by the way, for anybody out there, if you ever speak with a person in the media, I'm very careful about how I communicate with them. If you DM them, if you talk to them, if you call them, if you do a text message conversation with them. Anything can be used as a storyline. And you got to be really careful about that because this is their job. And it gets them on television. And it gets people to click on stuff. And they get judged by clicking and viewing and stuff like that. Like, that's what the media is today. It's about ratings. It's ratings, clicks, views. And they'll say it doesn't, but it absolutely does. If you drive eyeballs because of things like a story that you uncover or a story you're a part of, that's good. That's why a lot of the Cleveland media people, which annoys me in particular, or did in the past, was how negative they were towards the Browns because that got a lot of eyeballs. It got a lot of people to click, and they know that. So anyway, let's continue on. So now we know what she originally said. So now let's go look at what she then backtracked to say. Okay, so here's the clip, the second show she was on talking about this. This is the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. And we've got Jay Crawford, who's going to now interview her. And he obviously is friends with her. He knows her. I mean, Jay Crawford is connected. He's ex-ESPN. He is media guy all day long. So Jay Crawford knows people and is trying to like tee her up to get out of this situation. But it's weird, and let's kind of show the clip.
I love Cynthia.
She's on. We
so
got her.
Let's bring her in. Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network. Cynthia, we're obviously talking about the Baker Mayfield situation. And before we dive too deeply into it, we played the clip.
She looks visibly uncomfortable, too. She's, fidgety, and it's a different vibe than we got from the first show. I just want to point that out. I'm obviously, this has impacted her to come on this and then have to explain it to Cleveland media. So, but she looks uncomfortable.
I want you to, in your own words right now, sort of explain what happened. And
arms are crossed, looking down, thinking, swallowing, doing that kind of thing.
What the fallout has been from it since it dropped.
Okay.
Fallout's a good term, by the way, because that's really what's happened here.
And it's great to see you again. Let me start with that.
You too. I'm mid-move here. We got a lot of stuff in the background, but,
it's all good.
So all that happened was I shouldn't have shared a private conversation, although I stand by the fact that I'm pro Baker.
So again, it's a private conversation. Like, was it though? I mean, if you're on the sidelines of a game, which she said that she was at the Bills game, right? The Bills-Panthers game. And so it's not like she called him. It's not like they were hanging out at a party and she bumped into him. That's work. That's work for her and work for him. That is what they do. So anything you say, especially like coming off the football field, that should be considered interview fodder, right? So sharing a private conversation, that I don't buy. Like I don't care. Like that's what they should do. Like she has every right to report on any conversation she has with a player in an NFL stadium on the field.
I hope he succeeds. I hope he has a great career in Carolina.
Which I believe. I think she clearly does. I think she's a Baker Mayfield fan. I think clearly, I don't think she's doing this to go after Baker, or at least I don't think so.
I walked up to him after the game. He looked great. Everything was, he looked like he's happy. He's like having fun, God forbid. And
I mean, okay, so the having fun, God forbid comment's kind of odd. I'm like, he had a lot of fun in Cleveland. There were ups and downs in Cleveland. He's allowed to have fun, and that's great that he looks good and that he is, he's looking sharp again and he's back to, healthy. And I think that's what she tried to say. But this whole interview is very uncomfortable for her. You can tell.
And I'm like, I hope you have a great season. I used some expletives like F them up. Like, I know Baker's spicy and, he's been spicy his whole.
So now she's saying she said F them up. Let's go back.
I was like, I just hope you're like, he's like, I'm going to bleep them up.
He said, I'm going to bleep them up. But now she's saying that she said it.
And I used some expletives like F them up.
Two different stories.
Like, I know Baker's spicy and, he's been spicy his whole career, but dating back to college. So, I said that and then he just kind of agreed with me and we were just, and I.
Okay, let's say you're Baker Mayfield. Somebody comes up to you, maybe he knows or maybe he doesn't, I don't know, but they come and say, "Hey, I hope you have a great season. Go kick some ass and F them up," meaning who I don't. I mean, again, on this show, it was about let's just hear it again.
Ooh, that's being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent.
That's their week 1
Carolina
opponent.
Them being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent. Okay, so go F them up, and he was like, "Okay, cool, yeah, sure." I mean, like again, that's not a big deal for Baker. Like it sounds like something Baker would say. You know, he's the guy who planted the flag at Ohio State, the guy grabbing his junk against Kansas. Like that's Baker. We know that about him, that he plays with a chip on his shoulder, all that kind of stuff. He gets fueled by this, so it doesn't seem like odd that would be the case. But she's like putting the words into his mouth here, and now she's backtracking and say that she was the one who said go F them up, and he like kind of agreed with her. Which is like, what is he supposed to do? Not agree? Like, nah. She goes, "Hey, go F them up." And he goes, "Nah, I'm going to take it easy on them first game." Like, of course he's going to say, like, sure. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
Said, started off strong, go. And in fairness, like, as a woman, and especially in the media, like, I would like him to beat his old team.
What does that have anything to do with being a woman in the media? Question, that part of it I don't get.
For a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is it feels like, a poetic story. You see a lot of athletes face their former teams, and you're like, go show them that they were wrong. Like, get out there and be positive. There's nothing negative.
So let me ask you this. I'm a little confused. So is he the one that started the F them up, or did you say F them up and he co-signed it?
I said this entire season, so not just the Browns, the entire seasons.
Right.
I said, go out there and kick some butt and F them up, like, meaning everyone. I
hate to do this.
Especially week 1, I cannot wait. And he uses some expletives, and I was like, I just hope you're like, he's like, I'm going to bleep them up.
I'm going to bleep them up.
Ooh, that's being the Cleveland Browns.
Them being the Cleveland Browns.
The week 1 opponent.
The week 1 opponent. And then she said,
that's their week 1 opponent.
That's their week 1 opponent. Here she says,
but and F them up, like, meaning everyone. I said, started off strong week 1.
Okay.
And I can't wait to see you out there week 1. It was not that nefarious at all. It was all pro Baker. And I shared it because I'm pro Baker, and I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to get a second chance. I want everyone in life to get a fair shake. It was
okay. So, and I agree with that. I think everybody should get a second chance. And, and look, I mean, at the end of the day, like, again, it's not that big a deal. It's the big deal portion of this is that she put words into his mouth that initially that he clearly didn't say. And then she backtracked it because she took a lot of heat for it because she knew he didn't say it.
This is being blown way out of proportion. And it's frustrating because, it's like people are being like, you're not professional. And you're right. I shouldn't have shared a private conversation.
Only people saying that are other people in the media. The fans, I mean, not that I could see, the fans weren't all upset about it. They're like, look, that's Baker Mayfield. Like, we know who Baker Mayfield is. Of course, like, he could be like this, so it's fine. Like any player. If you go up to Myles Garrett and say, Myles, go F them up, meaning go F up the Panthers, he's going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go out and try to, do that. Like, of course.
Conversation, but I was sharing like excitement for a person who is in a much better headspace, who looks great, he's in good form. I chose to share it. I shouldn't have shared it. I mean that okay, I shouldn't have shared it.
So again, like what she shouldn't have done, she could have shared it, but what she should have been is truthful about it and said, I went up to Baker and I said, I hope you have a great year. Go kick some ass and go F them up, the Cleveland Browns, or go F up everybody. And then he could have been like, yep, great, I'll try my best, or I'm ready, or like he could have said that. But like that would have been fine to report if you would have reported what actually happened.
Have you spoken to him since, Cynthia?
No, I sent him a message, but his PR person just called.
So she tried to reach out to him like, hey, like, I don't know what she tried to say, but then it's like a PR thing.
Call me from the Panthers, and I'm sure I'll hear.
So Panthers PR person called her.
From the Browns too late. It's not. Where are all these people about the quarterback that's going to be playing Week 11? That's my question. Because
has she not seen the months of stories and conversation about the quarterback that's going to start Week 13, not Week 11?
The professionalism, my professionalism in question for encouraging him feels a little.
Nobody, to be clear, nobody is bringing up your professionalism about the comment that was said. That's fine. Everybody, literally nobody. What people are concerned about is that it wasn't what he said. And then the people in the media were then coming out and saying that was a private conversation. You shouldn't have shared it. But then it turns out he didn't say it at all. He just kind of agreed with what she said. It's completely different things.
Yeah, I personally, I can't speak for others, and I personally have no problem with you sharing that story.
Me either. I agree with the
part of that is because it gives, it's something interesting for us to talk about, not from your perspective, but just him saying that about.
If he truly said it, yeah, it is kind of interesting. It's like, all right, Baker's being Baker. If he really said it, it is kind of interesting.
About the Browns, but that's who Baker is. It is not surprising that he would say that. I honestly didn't give any thought to you sharing that until somebody said it to me, and then I said, oh, maybe, I don't know. But you seem aggravated because obviously you had no, like a lot of times when things like this get out, maybe the person has.
By the way, before he goes on to the next point, I agree with everything he just said.
Ill will, and it seems clear there was no ill will from you in this situation.
The exact opposite.
Right.
You know what? Like, you're allowed I'm a very professional person. You can ask.
So yeah, I mean, and by the way, I don't think that she had any ill will. I don't think she thought like this little slip up in terms of like what actually happened would have turned into such a big deal. Clearly.
Yeah, like I have the amount of stuff that we all know compared to what we share is like this much. I was saying on a podcast, I was showing a positive thing towards a player that has had a hard off season. Like that, no matter.
So like dismissing it and being like, it was just on a podcast. Like, I'm sorry, but like you say something on a podcast, that's on the record, no matter what it is, it's on the record.
For what? You have to admit that was a difficult off season for something. I shouldn't have shared it, whatever. Like, okay, got it. I'm never going to share anything that's told me again.
Again, now we're going to a whole thing. Like, I'm never going to share anything again. It's blah. And like, no, like you can share things if it's what actually happened.
I think that's also an interesting tactic for whatever. But, long story short, there was no negative intention. It was all about, I was encouraging him. I was like, the whole season, go get it. Like, I'm not going to swear on here, but I was swearing to him. I was like, go show everybody who's wrong. Be the guy who we want you to be.
Cynthia, I first of all, I want to take 1 second and absolutely back up what you said. I've worked with you long enough to know, and I know you as a person too, not just as a journalist.
By the way, she seems very pleasant. Like, I want to make sure, like, I'm not bullying her by any means. Like, I think she seems great. She's very well spoken. She obviously knows about the NFL. She's been around the league. She's got great connections. She just made a mistake. It's not that big a deal. Like she said before, like everybody deserves a second chance, and so does she. So I agree. Like, I don't think she's a bad, evil person, or like she should get fired for this, for God's sake. It was a mistake. That's it.
Not that you need me to co-sign for your character, but Cynthia, you know my feelings towards you as a person, and as a professional, and I also understand how these interactions go. And I think one of the things that's going to be debated today, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this, and I know you say, okay, I shouldn't have shared it, I was wrong. So we started the discussion by saying, kind of when there isn't a conversation between reporter and player about what's on and off the record, how does the industry operate? Because you're right. Typically, we share about this much of what we know.
Great question.
And most of what we don't share is because people have told us and they've said, look, off the record or between us. Are those passing encounters between players and reporters fair game if nothing is discussed, or should they be looked at as off limits unless there's that conversation that they are okay?
So just this is a great question. I'm glad he asked this because it allows her to have an opportunity to be like, hey, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Like, again, she could double down and be like, look, I made a mistake. I probably shouldn't have shared that because it was, maybe she felt like it should have been in confidence because it was really like a raw moment. And a lot of these reporters, even if you cover the team that you're in your city, like you are supposed to remain somewhat neutral. So I know it's depending on who you are, right? But if you actually work for the league, you know, you should remain neutral. Like somebody who works for the NFL Network as a media person shouldn't be rooting for necessarily one player or one team against another team. It's an unwritten rule, but you're really not supposed to do that. If you're like, I guess if you're like a local person, you could still trying to remain somewhat neutral, but definitely if you represent the league as a whole, you should. Now, the other point to it is, and this is just something I do, anytime I have an interaction with a player, I ask them explicitly, can I say this? And I've also gone to players and said, hey, you're telling me something in confidence. Do I have your permission to say it? And do not feel bad saying no if you'd rather it go through a more established member of the media versus, you know, a guy who's got a small YouTube channel and small following on Twitter. Like I'm an independent guy. So if you'd rather it go through like the Schefters of the world or Jake Trotter or those type guys who are like the beat guys or like the national guys, then yeah, just let me know. I'm totally cool with it. I will wait for your permission. So you should do that, right? Because it's a trust factor, and I think that's the biggest problem, and that's one of the biggest challenges that Cynthia is now going to face is people trusting her to say anything. Because what is she going to do? Is she going to make up what was said, or is she going to say something that she shouldn't in confidence? It's a breakdown in trust that has occurred here, and I think that's the piece. It's very difficult to get that trust back once you've lost it.
I mean, probably should err on the side of off limits unless they say they're okay, which is why I won't do that again. Like I say that with a little bit of disdain, and it's not the most genuine apology I've ever issued because, to be honest with you,
dude, Cynthia, just own it and move on. You were doing good for a while, and then you say it with disdain, and it's not the most honest. So like, it's not even an honest apology. You're not even really owning it. Cynthia, come on. I want you to get through this. I really do.
What I said was that I said it first, and he sort of agreed, which is not him even like. Anyways, he did.
It's not what you said. Let's go back.
Go kick some butt, especially week 1. I cannot wait. And he uses some expletives, and
he used expletives.
I was like, I just hope you're like. He's like, I'm gonna bleep them up.
Ooh, that's being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent.
That's
their
week 1
Carolina.
opponent.
Yeah, that being Cleveland, the first week opponent. Cynthia, come on.
Didn't come up to me like, I'm gonna blank them up. Like that wasn't it at all. Like it was
literally that's what she said the first time though.
Anyways, he didn't come up to me like, I'm gonna blank them up. Like,
but that's what you insinuated. You clearly said that on the first show.
That wasn't it at all. Like it was a positive thing. My point was that there are people who encourage other people and like whatever. So you're right though, but as a general rule, you should, unless it's on the.
Look at Jay. He's like, oh, I want you to get through this, Cynthia. I want you to, but you're not.
And like whatever. So you're right though, but as a general rule, you should, unless it's on the record, it's off the record. But I didn't, and yes, that I will 100% say, and I shouldn't.
I don't disagree with that. Like unless it's on the record, it's off. That's fine. And like she should have said, "Hey, is it cool if I tell the world that you said you want to go F up the Browns?" And he would have been like, "No, don't say that. That's a terrible idea. That'll get me in trouble. Like, don't say that at all." Even if he did say that and he didn't think that she would tell, like, she obviously don't do that.
Have said it, and I will not say it again like that without being like, can I say that? Because I won't. But the reality is many of us, you know, who are trying to support someone, it is a really nice way to support someone when you say, I saw with my eyes that they're good. I know the math that they're good. I can see their stats that they're doing better and whatever. And 3, you know, I said it to him and he seemed like he was in a good mental place. Like to me, that's a stronger argument. There was no, like, you know, I wasn't sitting there trying to tell Baker to talk crap about. I like the Browns. I'm disappointed in the Deshaun situation, but But
she was saying the Browns are your first week opponent, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but again, this is what she claims that he said, I'm going to F them up, that being the Cleveland Browns, the first week opponent.
I like the Browns. I love a lot of players on your team. I write so many great things about Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, like the whole secondary. Come on. Like I spend a lot of time. This isn't like anti-Brown sentiment. Yes, I'm a little hurt by the Deshaun stuff. I am a female and it's weird and it feels confusing, but it was as pro Baker. Who doesn't want to go back and get
all fair statements, by the way. All fair.
Revenge on their ex.
Yeah, particularly.
It's not like an ex, though. I mean, it's like ex team. It's not like, seems like it's trying to make it like personal, like ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. Like,
but Baker, who's done that a time or two and has sort of really built his brand on it. He's built his brand on proving others who have bet against him.
Texas Tech, you know, Hugh Jackson, I mean, anybody who's really not seen what he sees in himself, he clearly has an edge about that. So Jay's correct here.
That they bet on the wrong pony, essentially. G. Bush, do you have something you want to
say? Cynthia, do you feel like, because I feel like this happens from time to time, do you feel like it's not about what you said, it's about what player you said it about? And in the case is Baker Mayfield, and he's a lightning rod. So if you would have said this about, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, it wouldn't have been a thing, right? It's just, do you believe that the person that this occurred with actually matters? And that's where we're at today.
So good question and fair question, right? But it was intentional.
They're counting on David Bell, basically, to...
Right.
I got to call timeout.
I said woof and there's a dog.
I got to call timeout here.
It was me. Fine.
I'm using the first timeout. We only have 3. You ran into Baker Mayfield, former Browns quarterback, recently, and I was hoping you could share an exchange that you had.
It was after the field.
So it was like you had an exchange with Baker Mayfield, former Browns quarterback. It was all set up. It was in the Browns segment. She knew what she was doing by telling this story. It was about the fact that it's Baker. So it's not an unfair question that Garrett said.
100%. A lot of people pile on Baker because they want clicks or whatever. Like, please go.
Then why tell the story at all? That's exactly. I'm not saying you're piling on him, but you told the story because you know that he's a lightning rod guy and you know that people care about it. The guy called timeout on the show. Stop the show. Literally called timeout. One of the 3 that they have, he used one. He burned a timeout for this story. So clearly you knew that it was going to be somewhat salacious and interesting.
Look at my social media. I write articles. I don't do hot takes. That's not my vibe, like, ever. I literally never have.
I mean, I kind of understand why now.
Like, I probably, you know, I probably don't have as many Twitter followers because I don't do that. I was trying to support this person. If I had said it about Sam Darnold, same draft class, similar situation from another team, to be honest with you,
Yeah, but if it would have been the Jets, maybe. But it's the Browns, so clearly it's week 1 opponent, his ex-team, the Cleveland Browns, go out.
I don't think anyone would have even noticed, other than, I mean, honestly, since he got hurt in that game, it would have been very inappropriate. But But if the situation were reversed and he hadn't gotten hurt, I don't think anyone would have cared if I said it about Sam Darnold. That he was like, I'm going to go out there.
Well, because Sam Darnold's not the starting quarterback, and it's not against his ex-team. It's against Baker's ex-team, who is the starting quarterback.
And get the Jets week 1. Who cares? No one would have cared.
They would have cared. They would have cared because it wasn't true. I agree that it wouldn't be as big of a deal because there's a lot more, like, Browns Twitter has a lot bigger voice than a lot of other teams, but it doesn't change the fact that it wasn't true.
Yeah, I would co-sign that. Yeah. I think Baker's a lightning rod one way or another, and part of
I did not realize how much of a lightning rod, or I wouldn't have shared it. I was trying to be supportive of him.
I mean, that's a big mistake. People often fall into that trap of you talk about Baker or anything related to Browns things, people get a little prickly about it. It is what it is. It's like a member of the family or ex-member of the family, I guess.
Truly,
yeah. I do understand that. I know how you interact with. One of the reasons players love and respect you is because you treat them as human beings, not as football players. I've seen that firsthand for a long time, and
I could feel her frustration. I mean, I understand.
Yes, we all do, clearly.
Can too, and I feel badly for you.
I think
Cynthia,
we've all had that. We've all had that moment where we said something on the air that had no ill will or no bad intent, and somebody took it
or tweeted something. I've done that. I've done that times where I didn't have the intent that some people were trying to make it seem like I had intent for. So I get what Bull's saying.
Another way, or maybe it was even a way you didn't even think about it, and then it creates a life of its own. So, that's
Cynthia,
frustrating.
I got to tell you, the more I hear the Bull, and it's not just because of the cameo thing. The cameo thing was definitely like icing for me. I've always liked him, and I always felt that he was fair. And this just shows that, like, he's obviously trying to help her out. And he's trying to throw her a lifeline here.
I want to do this because I have long touted you as the in my eyes, and it's clouded by my personal relationship with you, but I've always told anybody that wants to listen to what I think about analytics, if you want to read somebody and you want to follow somebody who knows it, in my view, not just as well as anybody, but I've always thought your strength is communicating numbers, which can be very confusing to fans in a digestible and understandable way.
We're dumb. That's what he's saying. Just kidding. I know what he's trying to say, but he's basically saying, like, you're not a host or like you're not a talking head person. You're not somebody who's sitting there giving opinions or telling stories all day long. You're an analytics person. You're a writer. Right. So this is like maybe like not really your world that you've unfortunately entered.
I think no one in the business does it as well as you do. So
that's a big statement. That's Jay being really nice.
With that in mind,
I personally, till now, I didn't know who she was.
I would love to tap into that knowledge and ask you from an analytics standpoint. Like we always talk about, well, the Browns are going to.
So now we're trying to fall back into what she's good at, which is the analytics side of it. So let's stop talking about the whole hot take stuff or the story or whatever happened with it, and let's get into like her actual comfort zone here, which is, I get it, this is good.
Going to be 6-5 by the time Deshaun Watson gets back on the field, and we're just all gobbledygook. Where are the?
By the way, I think it's probably more like 5-6, but I'm with what he's saying.
It's tough.
Screw the haters. Listen, screw the haters.
Yeah, and it took courage for you to come on, and you met all this stuff head on, as I knew you would. It's great to see you again.
Very uncomfortable. You can tell, very uncomfortable.
Continued success to you, and thank you very much for making time for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And this is all. Hopefully, we can all enjoy the fact that this is a sport where we all want to F each other up. Like, that's the fun part, right?
That's right.
That's the whole idea of the sport. Yeah, that's the whole idea. Cynthia, thank you very much.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Cynthia Frelund.
So I don't disagree with that. And by the way, I'm not trying to make not trying to make a bigger deal out of this than it is. It is what it is. Just happens to be in my wheelhouse because it's talking about the Browns, talking about Baker, talking about relevant news, right? Week 1 coming up right around the corner. And this story comes out about it. I don't think she's a bad person. I think she made a mistake. I'm not in love with the way that she apologized for it and not directly owning it. And I think that's part of the reason why this thing keeps lingering on, is because of that directly. Right? So, yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about what's transpired after the 2 interviews, okay? Okay, so now within the last 2 hours, what has occurred is Hayden Grove comes out and says, Baker Mayfield in his comment, that is, quote unquote, that is not how I phrased it. That is not what I said. That's a direct quote from Baker on this particular topic. Next, the next tweet he says is, Baker Mayfield says that the media is making what they want to have him have said. This is what they think that I said, but it's not. Next, Baker Mayfield. It was kind of shocking. It is what it is. It's frustrating in the sense that it's not the way that it happened. People are going to say what they want. And then has he talked to Frelund? No, I could care less. I'm moving forward. Okay, so that's where Baker's like, look, honestly, Baker's a big loyalty guy. You burn him like this, he's not interested in that. Now, if she's reached out to apologize, I think he probably should, accept the apology or whatnot. Just be a bigger person here. But I do think he has the right to come out and give his side of the story, especially if he's claiming, and then when she has backtracked to confirm that he didn't say it, she did, and then he didn't say it at all. Okay, so the next thing we have is Jeff Shudell, who says, to be clear, Mayfield said he did talk to Frelund, adding an extra E in her name. So he did talk to her. That's fine. So the interaction occurred. The way he described it, she is the one who told Mayfield to kick the Browns' ass, and he went along with what she said. So, okay, great. He did not downplay going against his former team in the Carolina interview. Okay, great. No big deal. So this one was actually yesterday where Cynthia started to realize this was fueling and this is getting bad, right? And if you look at this, 84 retweets and 133 quote retweets, 1,605 likes, and it's like actually not that big a deal. This is something that literally would have blown over if she would have just left it alone. But because it really didn't happen the way that she claimed it initially happened, that's why this is still going on. So she says, oh boy, this is silly. Don't make more of this than it is. I was wishing him good luck colorfully. He agreed with me colorfully. What do you expect anyone to do in a situation? But again, so now in this tweet, she is reaffirming what she initially said, is that he colorfully agreed with her. And he's like, that's not what I did at all. It's not. So like, this is the second time that it didn't go down the correct way directly from Cynthia. That then she went on the Ultimate Sports Show to Cleveland Sports Show to backtrack off of. Not a good look. Okay, next. Aditi chimes in. So the last time Baker Mayfield faced a previous team, 4 touchdowns for Oklahoma versus Texas Tech. The time before that, 7 touchdowns versus Texas Tech. What else do you expect him to say when C. Frelund wishes him versus his former club? But he didn't say it at all. I think that's the part that everyone's missing. She said, go kick some ass. She said, fuck them up. And he said, yeah, great. I will. Like, he was just, it wasn't that he said it. It was that he was just like, what do you say in that situation? So again, Aditi is going off of taking her word for it, of how it went down. Not Baker's word for it, because nobody at this point, people hadn't talked to Baker. All right, let's see what the fans have to say. We've got Jay. SKPMD. Baker has already said it's a big game for him. Don't know that this is a huge deal. I'm with Cynthia on this, even as a Browns fan. So yeah, I am too. I keep saying, I made a video of this YouTube short yesterday. I'm like, this isn't a big deal at all. Like he said, I want to go out there and F him up. That's fine. But the problem is he didn't say that. So that's where everyone's like, and this was 23 hours ago. So like Jay didn't know this, but that's the thing. All right, next, Joe Thomas chimes in. I think that's okay. So this guy Hank's son replies, I'm not bothered at all by his comments, and he should be thinking that. I just wouldn't advise putting it out there to anyone, especially media. And Joe Thomas says, I think that's the point. It was a personal and confidential conversation, not meant for the public. Sorry, like, I don't know. Like, you have a conversation with a reporter in your place of work, which is the football field, whether it's on like during a game or after, it's there. I feel like that's fair game. I feel like it truly is. If he said, I'm going to F them up week 1, I think she had every right to report that. The problem is he didn't say it. She did. He's just like, okay, cool. All right, next. We have a GIF from John Burton, who just has it's a moving GIF, but it had moonwalking, so obviously insinuating that she's backtracking. My guy JSS, it's sports, it's fun. Enjoy some fire, right? Just saying like, hey, it's okay that he's like, if he actually said it, it's not a big deal. This is the sentiment I think for most people. Who cares, right? Of course, like that's fine that he can say it. Next. We have Matt Olwick, and I realize this is out of order in terms of timeline, so sorry about that. So on August 30th, which was yesterday, and he says, well, now you know how players feel when media makes up a huge story out of a joke. She says, I don't make huge stories out of jokes or anything. Like, Cynthia, this is a huge story now because you made it up. Next. Nowhere Man, I'm morally outraged. Pumpkin Guy. I don't. You can't see this. Let me try to move it down a little bit. Pumpkin Man says, "Thank you for the early bulletin board material. We knew this was coming. Remember, no one knows Baker better than us, right?" So like, he's just saying like we know his strengths and weaknesses. And he agrees that this is bulletin board material. And that if he said it, that's kind of what it is. Ross the Ruger. You don't say it to a reporter if you don't want it out there. You guys never held back any of his or anyone else's quotes before. Fair. I think that's absolutely true. You don't say something to a reporter whose job it is to report things, especially spicy things people say. And finally, 19 hours ago, the Spider says, you succeeded in your mission of getting more clicks. You put your boy in Front Street. Don't walk it back now. It worked. So he was saying like, look, you made a salacious story. You made it a big deal, which that's what she did. She was on around the NFL and she turned it into a story. And now she's saying, don't back down from it. Like, own it. But the problem was she did back down from it because it wasn't what happened. And then Baker came out and said, that wasn't what I said. So, yeah. All right. And that's where we stand right now. So unfortunately for Cynthia, this has become a big deal. And I want everybody to be clear. I'm not trying to bully her. I'm not trying to do anything. I understand what's going on. I think she just made a mistake. That's it. She made a mistake. She didn't think it was going to be as big a deal as it was. Maybe in her mind, he did say that, or she thought he did initially. And then when she went back, she's like, maybe he didn't. Maybe that's what I said, and he kind of agreed to it. And maybe it was just miscommunicated on the show, right? But either way, you know, I don't think she should be canceled. I don't think that this is something that she shouldn't lose her job. She's going to take a little bit of heat this week, which is clearly what's happening, but it's going to pass. It's going to roll over. As Jay was saying, he thinks very highly of her. He said other people think very highly of her, and she's going to be just fine. I think like she said, everyone deserves a second chance. I think she clearly does. I think she clearly feels bad about what this is, and she doesn't, obviously she would not do that again. And I think it's just a lesson learned. That's all. But it's just, for me, the only clear conclusion that you can come to is it was put out and it was misrepresented the way that it actually went down in the beginning. And then on Twitter, it was like kind of misrepresented again. So kind of doubling down like, oh, this isn't a big deal. This is silly. You guys are nuts. But kind of doubling down on that misrepresentation. Then it got to the point where I don't know if somebody talked to her or whatever happened, or maybe there was somebody else that was around the situation that could corroborate it and say, that ain't how it went down, right? Maybe somebody was there, maybe a cameraman, or maybe there is an actual recording of it that they don't want to release. Who knows? But she clearly realizes she made a mistake, went on to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and backtracked off of it and changed her story. The only thing concerning about it was that changing of the story. She didn't truly own the mistake. I think she just feels bad that it's blown up in her face like this. I would have liked it better if she would have been like, look, I just completely made a mistake. I misrepresented it. And in my mind, it went a certain way. And then when I went back and thought about it, it really didn't happen that way. And I want to apologize to Baker. I want to apologize to the fans. It wasn't my intent to do that, but it came out that way, and I feel really bad about it. I'm embarrassed about it personally and professionally, and you know, I made a big mistake, and I hope that the fans will forgive me for this, because truly from the bottom of my heart, it wasn't really what I was intending to do. That's how you apologize for it. Her apology was not that. It was,
I won't do that again. Like, I say that with a little bit of disdain, and it's not the most genuine apology I've ever issued, because to be honest with you, what I said was that I said it first and he sort of agreed, which is not him even like, anyways, he didn't.
Yeah, she knows she misrepresented it, and she's saying that she said it. And I think I just feel bad for her. So long story short, people, if you are going to go out there and make a comment about something that a player said, make sure you get the quote correct, have it recorded, have it in writing, ask their permission to say it, and then you can. If not, you risk running into a situation like this, where a perfectly good reporter with a great reputation damages it by making a mistake. And I think it honestly was an honest mistake. I don't think she had the intent to burn Baker. I think there was a little bit of, hey, I'm going to be on this TV show. I got to tell some kind of interesting story. And that was it. And that little, I don't know if it was like a white lie or that little bit that was misrepresented. That was the big thing that ended up blowing it up. So you got to be really careful of the things that you say out there. Everybody's done it. Because you can even say what you actually mean, and people can interpret that incorrectly and attribute that to other negative things that had nothing to do with what you were originally intending. That happens all the time too. Just don't walk into a situation where you're literally saying something that didn't happen. Then you have to backtrack it, because it does damage reputations. Unfortunately, she's kind of going through that right now. But I'll tell you this, Cynthia, you seem like a good person. You seem like you're kind of getting caught in the whirlwind here. And I don't mean to drag you through the mud by any means, but I just think this is an interesting story because it continues to evolve. You know, initially it was, he said it, I'm going to go F them up. Then it was, I said it, he just agreed with me. Then it was Baker coming out saying, I didn't say anything to her. Like, that's not what I said at all. So I don't even know if he agreed with her. right? So this is an ever evolving thing, and this is just where we are at this moment. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. We will be back soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and do all that fun stuff. See you next time. Go Browns.